Hi, it's Mike Stephenson. In the video today, we're going to have a quick look at a new feature we've added in Serverless 360 called the Logic App Cost Optimizer. So we have this feature in the cost analysis module that we've got, where we can optimize the cost of various different types of Azure resources. And the new thing we've added is support for Logic App consumption Logic Apps. So if we take a look at the Azure portal here, so if I bring this up, we've got the cost analyzer module on the right. And over here, you can see I've got a number of nodes representing my organizational structure of how I want to group my cost management. So in my integration platform area, I've got this setting for managing Logic Apps. Now, what I can do, there's a number of different ways I can configure the tree view. In this scenario, I'm looking at generically managing Logic Apps from a cost perspective, so I can see things like how much they're going to cost. So I've got a bunch of graphs here showing me, my most expensive Logic Apps, and when the cost, cost per month, cost per resource group, that kind of thing. Now, the feature that we're going to look at today is in this optimization area. And here, what I'm able to do is set up a schedule to manage when my Logic Apps are turned on and off. So if we imagine a scenario where I may have a Logic app that pulls Service Bus, it may pull an FTP site, or a number of other scenarios where my Logic app trigger is going to fire on a regular basis, but it's not really doing any work. This is particularly common for things like non-production environments. So one of my customers, I think, can save quite a good amount of money by disabling Logic apps in the dev, build, and system test environment where they constantly pull Service Bus, but because we're not doing active testing, they're just sitting spending money, but they're not really being used. So that tiny cost of running the trigger individually for a one-off run doesn't really cost very much at all. But if you multiply that by a number of Logic apps across a number of environments, there can be some significant potential cost savings. So to give an example, I think our scenario, we have Logic apps costing about $5 each per month, just spending time polling Service Bus. And if we've got 100 of them in 4 environments, very quickly that becomes quite a big amount. So if I can turn off 3 of those environments when they're not being used, then that's where the big cost saving comes in. So here, what I'm able to do is, you can see I've got my Logic App Cost Optimizer set up, and I'll just show how you would set a new one up. So I'll just set this test one. We can configure the time zone it's going to run on. I would then configure the schedule. So green means up or on, red means down or off. So let's say in this scenario, we want things to be on during the business day and turned off outside of that. That would be a really common schedule. And then we would choose the resources that we want to be part of this schedule. So here I've got my Logic apps. So I would say in this case, I'll turn on my help desk simulator and add it to this, this schedule. And I can configure some settings about alerts on email and stuff. I can also, there's a quite handy setting here where you may only want to get an alert if there was a failure running the optimizer job, would be one example. And then that would be it. That creates my schedule, and that will be up and running. Now I'm just going to delete that and show the details of my other schedule. So what I've done here is I've got a bunch of Logic apps that are in my demo environment, and these are the sort of ones that I've chosen to configure because they're doing things like checking FTP sites and checking Service Bus. So if I turn them off when they're not being used, then I can reduce my costs for my demo environment and just make my budget go that little bit further. Again, I'm just using the default here, but it would be as simple as, if I only wanted to finish at 5 p.m, I would just turn them off there and update it, and that would be how simple it is to configure it. So the win here is that when we want to do this kind of automation, you can script this stuff, but actually there's an overhead in the developer having to write the script, having to maintain it, having to add new Logic apps and take away Logic apps that are no longer used. That's going to take a DevOps skill set to do that, whereas with Serverless 360, we're just making it really simple for your support operator or your your dev team can configure this in a couple of minutes and not have to worry about the complexity. You just want it to do the job for you. So that's how easy Serverless 360 is going to make this scenario for you. You can see the history here of each time we've ran the job. So you can see I've stopped and start my Logic Apps each day, and I've got some savings on that. Cost Optimizer can be used for a bunch of other resource types as well. So you would have seen when I set that up, we've got things like SQL, Azure, app services, VMs, and over time we'll be adding support for more types of Azure resources driven by customer feedback on what things you want to optimize cost on. So we'd love to hear from people about this feature, what they'd like to see us add to it, what's going to help save them money and make their lives easier. And thanks for listening to today's video. Please reach out if you'd like to have a trial of this feature or you'd like a demo of what it looks like. We'd love to hear from you and chat about how we can help. Thanks for listening.